This is SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. The National Medal of Honor Museum. Discover the National Medal of Honor Museum and witness real people, real stories, and real courage. All-Tech Lansing. Just listen with All-Tech Lansing, perfecting sound since 1927. And by SWBC Mortgage. Customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now, your hosts, Nate Newton and Bobby Belt.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Cowboys Crosstalk live on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, DallasCowboys.com, and all other associated social media platforms. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. I'm Bobby Belt from 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, the radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys. Tonight, I'm joined by my 105.3 The Fan teammate, Jake Rietma. As always, we've got the three-time Super Bowl champion and six-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton with us. And our special guest this evening, our Cowboy alumni, two-time Cowboy alumni, Oklahoma State and Dallas, is former quarterback Tyler Patmon. Tyler, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, we just referenced the Oklahoma State portion of that. First, before we get into anything about, how you ended up at Oklahoma State, because I know you started in Kansas and you ended up transferring, but your thoughts on the transitionary period right now for Oklahoma State and the Cowboys and where they're at.
Man, first you got to give all respect to Mike Gundy and what he's done there. Just the run that he had as a player and a coach. He did amazing things at Oklahoma State, to a point to where they were always, close to a 10-win season. So all respect to him, man. It's just, I think all great things come to an end. And so it's that time to make that transition, man. And so looking forward to what that can look like for them and the entire organization. So
you did end up at Oklahoma State, like we just referenced it. You grew up in the Austin area, born in Round Rock, like me too. Both of us born in Round Rock, Texas, right there. Talk to us just about your trek through high school, what led you to going to Kansas initially, and then the transfer, and just your path getting to the NFL.
Yeah, man. Actually, I was born in a small town in Oklahoma called Crescent.
Oh, okay. Well, then I was wrong. Yeah. Wikipedia, damn you.
I was. It's about a small town, about 1,000 people. My entire family's from there. I tell people, man, I've lived all up and down I-35. So, I was born to high school parents. My dad was a coach. He became a high school coach, and so he coached in Dallas here for a little bit. We lived in DeSoto, then ended up in Austin. And so, man, had an opportunity my junior year, had a couple offers, Iowa State, Utah, Mississippi State, Kansas. And this was the year that Kansas actually won the Orange Bowl. Had Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr., Todd Reese, and some of those great guys. And, man, it was just one of those things where I saw how good they were, and I wanted to be a part of it in that season, man. So ended up choosing Kansas. Was there for 4 years, had 3 different head coaches. We had Mark Mangino. He got fired my freshman year. Brought in Turner Gill. Turner Gill was there for 2 years. Then they brought in Charlie Weiss. Charlie Weiss, we all know, is an NFL guy. He came in as if it was the NFL. Started releasing guys, cutting guys off the roster. And this was a time when, you couldn't just transfer schools. You had to go through a whole process. You couldn't just bring kids in, man. And so at that time, I was a little bit of a hothead. And we got into it a few times. And at the end of the year, man, they said, hey, we think it's time for you to walk away from the program. So got kicked off the team, but turned into a blessing, man, and was able to transfer to Oklahoma State where I did my last year. Ended up having a 3-day tryout with the Dallas Cowboys, which turned into my NFL career. So been blessed.
You mentioned there that you were the son of a coach. And I know whenever you hear players who are talking about Jake, also the son of a coach over here, whenever you hear the story about guys who played for coaches, they always seem to talk about different
Hold on, man. He said that too reluctant, man. Like you didn't believe he was the son of a coach.
I know he is. I know not only that, his name is on the arena at his university from his dad. So
that's a good pickup line.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
that's me right there.
Yeah, you see a cute girl and you're like, hey.
That's gotta be.
They didn't have to know it was for Pops. It was for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you were at Oklahoma State and you could have said this is Patmon Arena, that probably would have carried. I would have been. Come on. But being the son of a coach, how do you think that affected you in terms of your trek to the NFL? A lot of people talk about the positives that come from it. A lot of people talk about, man, there's some pressure that comes with it and expectations, and you end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, man. It's just you be around the game. You're around the game so much. You know what I'm saying? I've been in love with the game for so long because I've been around it for so long. And so being a coach's kid, man, I think it was part of my positive of being a player, that I knew the game. I've been around the game. I had a savviness for the game. You're right. You can look at me. I'm not the biggest. I wasn't always the fastest. I was just quick, and I kind of knew how to play the game. And so I think a lot of that comes from being a coach's kid as well.
A lot of it probably came natural. You were just absorbing it, and then when you wouldn't even realize it, but you just through osmosis because you were around it the whole time.
Right. Not the osmosis, bro. Be careful
That's a big
when you
word,
use
huh?
that word for real, bro.
Come on. Yes, sir. Yeah, like you said, man, you just kind of, I could tell I just step on the field and just kind of had a feel for the game different than some other players. And so I think that comes from being around it so much.
You and your pops watch film together?
We did a little bit, man. We had we kind of bumped heads a lot.
Yeah.
I had a young father, and so man, there was a lot of times where we kind of going at it a little bit, but he poured himself into me,
laser
man.
pointer out there, say, come on now, come on now.
We having a long car rides back home, or what I didn't do right in practice, and getting on my head, but it was a blessing, man, for me as a football player and as a man, for sure.
I'm curious. Go ahead, Nate.
No, just how many sports? Because I got to ask that. How many sports were you able to play in high school?
3. Yeah.
Good. So
football, basketball, track.
And how did you fare? How did you fare?
My first love was basketball.
Right.
But I stopped growing.
Okay.
So I made a business decision. My junior year, I'm not going to play basketball no more. I'm going to focus on football. But it was pretty good, man. We made it to state a few times in track. We did some great things. Basketball, I was just quick, fast, great defender, but football was the one I could kind of stood out on for sure.
Okay. We're joined by Tyler Patmon here on Cowboys Crosstalk. So I'm curious, you talk about watching film and some of those long car rides and different things like that. I'm curious actually for both of you, Nate and Tyler. We've heard occasionally from guys, and this has come up a lot recently with the Cowboys having some communication issues that they talk about. And you'll hear guys talk about some veterans, they'll say, like, you have to learn how to work. And you got to learn, how to study. And like there's certain habits that you have to learn. It's not as simple as just walking in and doing homework. Like there's a certain way that you're supposed to work when you reach the NFL. At what point do you guys feel like you reached, whether it be in college or the pros or whatever else, where you felt like I know my process of how I'm supposed to work during the week?
That's a great question. I think it's different for everybody because some dudes are just can be way more talented than others. And they feel like they don't have to study. They don't have to put in that work, and it just comes so naturally. Like I said, for me, I was always kind of a student of the game. So in college, I knew how to study film. I knew how to prepare to kind of get a beat on the offense and what they were doing. But when it comes to the NFL, it's kind of like that holistic approach now, where you got to watch film, you got to take care of your body, right? You got to be mentally prepared. And so there's a lot more that goes into it. And I think a lot of that comes from learning from guys that have been doing it at the highest level, and you're kind of watching and you're just observing how they navigate, how they carry themselves, and you kind of take the bits and pieces and kind of form it to mold to fit you specifically and how you carry yourself.
Nate, how about you? When did you feel like you really figured out I know how to do my work during the week?
3 or 4 years in, Charles, and stuff like that. I just was having fun.
Yeah.
And I'll tell anybody, I was having fun. That's why a lot of times I don't judge you guys first year. This is hard for me to judge, especially a young talent coming out his first year. But then that second year, you should be able to start catching on a little bit better. And by that third year, you should if you're gonna be something,
you should hit it.
Yeah, you should hit, man.
When we talk about the idea of studying and knowing what you're supposed to do, and then we hear a lot about film study is such a key for guys, where it gives them an advantage on Sundays. The guys who are the most well studied typically are going to have an advantage on Sundays. I heard Richard Sherman telling a story not long ago where he was saying that, he said if there's one thing he wishes he could dispel fans of out there, he's like, a bust is never really a bust, or not usually just a bust. He said, and he gave this example where he said, Kyle Shanahan went to the Falcons and worked with Dan Quinn and had understood some of the Seattle concepts, and after watching it in training camp, Kyle Shanahan realized, they have certain rules over there where if I put a receiver out here and I did, basically the way that he had set the formation, he knew that he could run a tight end up the seam and it would be uncovered. And it looks like a bust. And Richard Sherman's like, everybody did their job. He broke our rules. What would you say? Is there anything like that for you or you, Nate, where you guys say, this is the biggest thing I wish fans could understand about the game that they don't totally get all the time?
I saw a play where the tight end, it was a strong to the right. It was a 5 yard. It was on the 5 yard line. I saw where the tight end was right behind it was tight end, then it was a slot tight end. I saw where this tight end took off. This tight end hesitated. The guy went up and picked the actual guy. He ran into him and picked the actual guy that this guy was coming across the field on. That guy just looking at him. And he run it all he could. That was not a bust. That was just a well-executed play. And I'm like, that guy knew where he was supposed to be. But what he had to go through to get there, that was not a bust. And the announcer probably said, it was a big bust. It was not a bust. It was a well-executed play, man.
The announcers can kill you sometimes, especially in the secondary. Look at what he's doing. He's giving up all these catches. And a lot of times, it's like you said, sometimes the defense is designed to give up something specifically on the field, and a lot of times you can't see that from the outside looking in, especially when you don't have the camera angle to where you can see the whole defense, right? And so a lot of times, man, I think fans can understand that perfect offense is a lot of times going to be the perfect defense.
Every time. Every time in any sport. In any sport.
Right. And so we're always giving up something, right? Whether it's a check down or whether it's the seam, like you said, or a comeback route. And so a lot of times as DBs, you might see someone getting caught on and he's making a tackle and you think it's on him. And in reality, right, that's what the coach was telling him, hey, this is what we're giving up this week.
In your experience, and when you talk about, there's always a give and a take, and a perfect offense is going to beat a perfect defense, were there certain types of schematical approaches that you felt really played to your strengths compared to some others? Like, the most basic would be, man coverage versus a zone coverage. Or when did you feel like you were really at your best schematically?
Me specifically?
Yeah,
I'm a man guy. I want to get down. we're going to match it. We're going to bump and run, and we're going to see if the quarterback can fit it in that tight window, right? I was a quick guy more than I was fast, so I always believed if I'm on top of you after the first 5 yards, I'm going to beat you out the break, right? Even though I'm reacting, I'm going to beat you. And so that's what I wanted to do at all times, man. And so for me personally, it was great when I came in with Marinelli. And he was kind of calling those man-to-man calls, and that's always kind of just been my forte, man. I want to get down and use my quickness against you.
Man. And so what you're saying is, and the quicker they get to the quarterback, the more you're going to be breaking it up.
I need that.
That'd be helpful.
That's very helpful.
Wouldn't that be helpful? Let's go ahead and let's take our first break. Before we do, I'm going to throw out a question real quick here to Tyler, because he just mentioned it. He's a man guy. He felt like he was a man guy. We've heard some guys in this locker room talk about, we prefer playing man. This is a very zone-heavy scheme. So, Tyler, when we come back, I just wanted you to answer the question, how do you approach playing in a scheme or playing a certain coverage that maybe you're not totally comfortable in, and what's the mindset to attack that in the best way? We'll do that when we come back here with Tyler Patmon on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Welcome back to the Cowboys Club, the Star in Frisco, for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. We're coming to you live on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, DallasCowboys.com, and all other associated social media platforms. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan in Dallas, the radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys. Tonight we've got my teammate Jake Riepma from 105 Through the Fan. As always, we've got the 3-time Super Bowl champ and 6-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton. And our guest this evening is former Cowboys cornerback Tyler Patmon.
Yes.
So, Tyler, we were just talking about it going to break. The idea of maybe a scheme call or you know, a defense that you don't feel best suits you.
Yeah.
But you're there and you still got to play. You still got to make plays. You got to fit into that defense. Just talk about the mindset of trying to work into that, because you know you were a guy playing in Rod Marinelli's defense, which is going to be a very heavy cover 2 or zone coverage scheme a lot of times.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know a lot of people say that, but when he was with the Cowboys, we were very simplified. We played cover 3, but for us at corner, it turned to man after 5 yards, right? We played a little cover 2, and then all his fire zones, for us, it was man-to-man outside. And then we played 1Y and some cover 2. And so for us, it was like we're playing man almost the entire game, you know. But, you know, there was those times when I transitioned to other teams, and like you're saying, that playbook changed a lot for me. And so I think, man, that's part of being in the NFL. You're either going to get it done or you're not, and you got to adjust. And so as a player, I think you just have to have that mentality, man. How do I make this system work for me, right? How do I fit into this? How do I use what I'm good at to fit this type of coverage that the coach wants me to play? At the end of the day, that's what it's about, you know. And so it can be tough on players, man, but if you're going to get paid the big bucks, you gotta be willing to adjust.
It's called ability alignment. Know your abilities and align accordingly.
Well,
you can ask a real player, you can ask him 800 different ways. If he want to continue to play in the NFL, he going to learn alignment, ability, alignment. Yeah. He going to learn it because he don't want to leave this league.
Right. And a lot of times it's the mentality, too.
Yes.
Because some guys want to complain and gripe. And I've been in that position where you want to complain about it, but at the end of the day, you just got to find a way. You got to have the mentality like I'm about to step on the field. I'm going ball still. Find a way.
That's what my follow-up was going to be. Just doing the mental gymnastics to get yourself into that position mentally, so that you can not be thinking about I don't feel so comfortable doing this. But you know, is there? I guess if you could quantify a strategy of just mentality of how you get yourself in that headspace of, even though this isn't my strength, this is what I'm being asked to do, so I got to go do it. Yeah,
well, for me, it was a little easier because I was always a bubble guy. So it's either you're going to do it or you're going to
get done.
Like that's as simple as it gets a lot of times, man. And so I think it can get sometimes where some guys can get comfortable when they're a high draft pick or they just signed that big contract, and you find yourself complaining a little bit more, feeling like everything should adapt to you instead of you adapting to the system. And so, man, I think a lot of times you just have to have that dog mentality. That's what it comes down to, that I'm going to get it done. If I want to be great, if I want to be known as a great, if I want to reach that big contract, I got to find a way. That's all it is.
Tyler Patmon joining us here on Cowboys Crosstalk. You know, you mentioned that when you go to new systems, sometimes there was kind of a culture shock or you know, an aggressive shift in scheme, ideology, probably language, some of those other things. So one of the things we've talked about a lot this year in the secondary has been communication, and that there have been some communication issues. And I think for a lot of fans, when they hear communication issues, that's always a catch-all that kind of confuses them. They're like, so what, they're just not talking to each other? What is communication supposed to mean? So for you, when you think of being in a huddle on an NFL field with a defense, and the call comes in to the point that the ball is snapped, where are the levels or where are the angles that you see it as you could have communication breakdowns here, and this is what good communication and bad communication looks like?
I think a lot of times we forget that as defensive players, we're watching film, but so is the offense, right? So we can see what they're running all throughout the season, and they know what we're running, right? Especially if you run a simplified defense. And so they might give you the same route formation, but just in our same route concept in a different formation. Or they might bring a guy in motion. They might line them up as a flex or a tight end flex or, as a bunch. And so those things is like, what's coming, but the way that it's set up, you kind of have to go through that mental process of how this is all shaping out, right? And so sometimes that can be the communication issue. And like Nate was mentioning, sometimes they have the delayed releases. They have all these dudes are geniuses, these offensive coordinators. And so they know what works and how those guys are thinking on the other side, man. And so sometimes that can be a part of the communication issue of something that you practice, you repped in practice that looked a certain way, and then in the game they come out in a different formation and it kind of throws you off a little bit.
That makes sense. Now, when you use the word simplified, and you've said it a couple different times now, and again, I think when we're talking and fans hear some of these discussions, they tend to go like, simplified? Well, that sounds elementary then. Yeah. Why is that a good thing? Explain for that, and Nate, you weigh in on this too, just the idea of why simplification is not always a bad thing, even at the NFL level. That's sometimes the way that you want to approach things.
Yeah.
For me, what it meant back when I played was we kept it simple because we were better. We beat you with our athletes. We didn't beat you with a scheme. We were 4 across, bring it. That's what our DBs like, bring it. We locking up. So that's how we play. And we played fast. Our offensive line the same way. Yeah, I got him. Let's do it, baby. Yeah. And we played fast. A lot of times that what simplified means for us. But as you go on in life, and like you said, you come out in a bunch formation, it ain't just that simple. Yeah. But the coach gonna say, man, this dude, if this outside guy drag across corner, you got him regardless. You got to run through some traffic and everything. But some guys forget that. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to let you expound on it.
Yeah, man. Like Nate was saying, I agree 100%. Sometimes when we say simplified, it gives players the opportunity to play fast.
Yes.
Let me use my athletic ability. Let me go do what I do, play football. Right. And then, like you were saying, though, these offensive coordinators are so smart.
Yes.
Because even though you're in a simplified defense, they run route concepts and motions and all these things that make you think and slow you down. That's all it does. And they just need that little window to hit it in there to get the play off and to execute.
Depending on the quarterback.
And so that's a big part of it. But, man, having a simplified defense, again, just gives guys the opportunity to fly around, But I think when you have that simplified defense, you have to execute at the high level of what it's called to do. So if you're a top-down defense, a bend but don't break defense, you can't be giving up big plays.
Like the team we're playing this week is going to test our offense metal. They're going to ask them 6 to 12 plays. Don't make a mistake. That's what the Cardinals going to ask you to do. We thinking that our defense going to make you make a mistake. And so they depend on, if the Cardinals offense would get them one more touchdown a game, you may could be looking at a different Cardinals team. This thing is tricky because it all comes down to the mindset of players. Yeah. Coaches can keep adjusting, but it all comes down to the mindset of your players.
Yeah, that's good.
There was when you talk about simplifying and being able to play fast, and a lot of people, when they hear that, I think they're like, but they're supposed to just read things, or they're supposed to do things this way. There was a play near the end of the game in Philly week 1, I think, where, as an example of it, I was talking with somebody later, and they were kind of breaking down what was going on defense. And they're talking about how Vic Fangio, there with the Eagles, who is one of the more elaborate defensive coordinators that you can find out there, that he has a coverage that he likes to play cover 3 sight, which is for those listening at home, he's the free safety is basically reading what is the runner doing out of the backfield. And depending on what he does, that's going to change where he's going to go. And then the linebacker has to know, the middle linebacker needs to know where he has to go, and that's going to change his responsibilities. And everybody has to fall into place after that. And that's the thing that you're talking about, right? Like the idea of just that's so much that you have to process, whereas a simplified defense just says, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm playing.
Yeah.
All right, so now, Tyler, you told us during the break, it was something cool we were just talking about, that obviously you're retired now, but you're still living around DFW.
Yeah.
What are you into now? You got a 501c3 or a nonprofit that you're working with?
Yeah, we have a nonprofit, man, and we're in the process of starting a K-12 private Christian academy that specializes in holistic athlete development, right? And so, as former athletes, myself and also my wife who played in the WNBA, we understand all too well of how, young athletes can anchor their identity in their performance rather than in their creator. And, man, so we're all about helping those guys discover who they are beyond the game, which we truly believe will help you be a better player.
Yes,
when
it
your
will.
identity, your purpose, and worth is anchored in Christ and not in your performance, man. So that's what we're all about. We're in that process, man, of really bringing in the leadership, collecting that capital in order to build this vision that God gave us.
What was the inspiration behind just the entire process to get that going? I mean, that's really neat that your wife's in the WNBA. Was there a specific time where you guys kind of had that light bulb moment where you knew this is what you wanted to pursue?
Man, I think it's just our life experiences. Like, we went through it. You know, I went through the mental, like we were talking about, the mental up and downs where my performance was here and I felt here about myself, right? But then when I was struggling, man, I felt terrible about who I was and how I carried myself and how I viewed myself. And so we saw the need just through our own personal life journeys and through all our friends, our relatives, our teammates. We saw how hard it was for a lot of players to transition out of the game into the next phase of life. And we knew that was all because they needed to figure out what they were anchored in, you know, early in their life. So
and I mean, you mentioned that there, Nate, we were talking a couple weeks back to Darren McFadden, and Darren talked about how when he got out of the NFL, it's like he said, you know, it's 30 years of your life committed to this sport. He's like, and then it's just gone, and you don't find the right things to fill your life with. And Darren's talked very openly about some of his struggles with alcohol and how he's free from that now. But, you know, like you mentioned there, that's got to be a process that I assume you're trying to get ahead of at this young age, to where it's like, hey, you've already got the tools to understand what really is important when this is gone, because this is going to be gone someday.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's the understanding. We always tell them it's not plan B, it's plan 8.2. You got to transition. Tom Brady played for however long he played, he still had a transition, right? That's just a part of our game that we love, right? So how do we understand who we are outside of this game, so when that time comes, it's more so of just walking across to the next phase instead of having to almost feel like we're starting over in life.
Tyler Patmon with us here on Cowboys Crosstalk. We're going to take our second break now. When we come back, there was a game that was played on Sunday that we need to break down. I know that Nate has already been, sighing heavily over here and rubbing his temples, getting ready to talk about this. Right. We'll talk about the Cowboys-Broncos game from this past Sunday, and then look ahead a little bit to the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. That's next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Want to use what the pros use? Jack Black is the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit getjackblack.com today. Welcome back to the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. We're coming to you live on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, DallasCowboys.com, and all other associated social media platforms. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan in Dallas. That's the radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys. Tonight we've got my teammate from 105 Through the Fan, Jake Rietma, with us. As always, we've got the three-time Super Bowl champ, six-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton here, and our Cowboys alumni this evening. Our very special guest is Tyler Patmon. Tyler, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a game this past weekend. It was not the one. It was not by one, Nate. It was not this week. The Broncos get the best of the Cowboys, 44-24. A tough game for the Cowboys in just about all phases. Brian Schottenheimer has been very clear early on this week. I think that it's been really fascinating to hear Schotty kind of talk this week and just say that flat out this was not good enough. This seems as frustrated as Brian's been all year, kind of talking about where the team is at. So universal, disappointment from the Joneses, from Brian Schottenheimer, and the things that they've said this week. Let's just jump into some of the quick takeaways from the game. Tyler, you first. What were your thoughts on this game and where the Cowboys kind of stand at this point in the season?
Man, it's honestly, man, it was tough to watch. When you talk about a defense struggling a little bit or not doing as good as they want to, there's usually something that you can point out like, man, at least we're doing this at a high level when you try to adjust and adapt to everything else. But watching the game, man, it's tough to see not winning first down, can't stop the run, right? Lack of communication, mental errors, missed assignments, all those things. And it's like, man, what is going on to where we can't execute at some point on the defense, man? So that's a little frustrating because you don't like to, at that high of level with the NFL level, that's a bad sign for everyone in the room. As I said, I was a bubble guy, so I understand when that time comes, pins and needles, everybody, so it's tough to watch that.
Nate?
I started laughing because I watched film, and the more I watched it, the more I said, this is not going to turn out nice.
Yeah.
And you have to, and I'll say this out loud, you have to either stop the run or stop the pass and rally to something.
Yeah.
When an offense can line up and tell you, I'm going to run, I'm going to throw it, I'm going to run again, but hold on, I'm going to throw it this time, and you can't stop none of it,
It's tough.
but that ain't how you play NFL football. I'm going to ask him, how do you play, what do you think on defense?
Man, I think it's like you said, you got to pick your poison.
Yes, you do.
I think, just the defense that they're running, either you're going to have to adapt or you're just going to have to say, this is what we're going to give up and we're going to attack and rally behind this. And so I think, man, just having the offense that we have that's very explosive, savvy, veteran quarterback that can really score at any time. So we have to figure out something on defense in order to protect that, just to slow it down a little bit. People scoring on us, right? And so I think, man, when you talk about Flus, I played here when Flus was here, and he's a cup guy, what we call a cup. And so he's big on a bend but don't break defense.
Yeah.
And so if that's what we're going to do, I think I mentioned it earlier, we can't be one of the defenses that's giving up the most explosive plays in the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
Everything has to be completed down here, and we rally and we tackle. But at the same time, that's easy to, or it's not as easy to do when you can't stop the run.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of it's easy for people to see all the passes completed and point the fingers at the defensive backs.
That's right.
But a lot of the things that's taking place is that second level.
Yeah.
Right.
Linebackers.
You know what I mean? And so,
that was a big thing for Jerry this week, talking about linebackers.
a lot of times it's because they're not stopping the run. So those guys are creeping up. And so when it's passed, they're not getting back to their spots. They're chasing. And a lot of that second level stuff is taking place, man. And so it's one of those things, man, where I think they just got to get the mentality, again, that, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to break. We're not giving up big plays. If they're going to complete anything, it's going to be a check down. It's going to be a stop route, and we're going to rally. We're going to run to the ball, and we're going to tackle,
when you've had games like that in the past where it's just collectively 1 through 11, offense, defense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a throw the game tape out the window. How challenging is it that week of practice leading up to the next game, and how badly do you want to get back in it to just wipe the slate clean and be, have another opportunity out there?
I think, man, it really depends on the coaches and how they approach it. I think I've been in a few organizations, and I've seen coaches that kind of bring that pressure, like somebody's going to get cut, somebody's going to get released, everybody needs to be on their P's and Q's. And I've also seen the coaches that are like, hey, don't panic. Let's continue to build our guys up and let them know that we're here, we trust in them, and we're going to hit it, right? We're going to figure out what's wrong, and we're going to adjust, and we're going to adapt. And so, man, as a player, though, you want to get back on that field and you want to prove yourself, right? Because you hear the fans chirping, you hear the talk, you hear, Jerry doing his interviews, and so it's that time that we got to make something happen, especially coming into next week and then going into a bye week, right? You got to think there's going to be some moves made and something changed the way the season is going right now.
It's something that, fans, they, for lack of a better term, they want blood a lot of times on certain things like that. So when things are going poorly, and no doubt, things have gone poorly defensively this year for the Cowboys. But, when you hear Brian Schottenheimer or Matt Eberflus or Jerry or Steven or everybody else, and they start talking about execution, it seems like a lot of fans are just like, just execute it, do something, make it different. But how big of an issue is it when you've got guys, especially in a zone coverage scheme, where it's like they don't necessarily know where they're supposed to be, or they're not consistently reading things correctly and being in the right spot, where in that instance it does feel like execution should be what makes this better.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to maybe it just needs to be a personnel change. Maybe that's what it comes down to. If somebody's not executing at a consistent level, and I think a lot of that can come into that mental side. There's a lot of young guys on the field, right? And so you can think about the pressure mentally that comes with knowing the defense isn't being successful, and you're kind of getting thrown into the mix, and you're like, I gotta make a play or I can't mess up. And the mental process that you go through of trying to do too much instead of just playing the game, relaxing, taking a deep breath, and going and doing what you know you're supposed to do.
I challenged a couple of guys this week after this game, because like I tell people, we had four, besides Bland, who were these guys before they started Sunday for the Dallas Cowboys? Name these guys and tell the fans who were these guys. They were just guys. Yeah. Bell is the only one, he played linebacker. He's got significant snaps at linebacker, 232 snaps at safety. These guys were lost out there. And so I'm saying to myself, now, somebody going to have to pay for this, But these guys, now, we took a corner, and now we automatically, in 1 week, in one game, saying, hey, he's a corner. Red is a safety. Red is a safety. I'm like, wow. Can you imagine you are a corner, then next week everybody thinking you're a safety? Yeah. Come on, brother. How wild is that now? Come on now. Have a respect for the game now. Your game ain't that easy.
Yeah, it's the yo-yo. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Now, when we talk about that, and you're mentioning, all the things that go into execution and knowing your responsibility, and we've talked about simplifying defense and doing different things like that. When Brian Schottenheimer's mentioned before that the communication issues, he said specifically, he drilled down on this. He said our biggest problem is everybody's good leaving the huddle. He said everybody's good when we get to the line of scrimmage. He said it's a shift. He said when somebody shifts or there's emotion, responsibilities change and not everybody gets the message. Talk us through just a little bit of what a shift or emotion could potentially do to your responsibilities and how much that could change the complexion of the defense.
Oh, yeah, man, that can change a lot. Especially I had the opportunity to play nickel and corner, right? So in that box, when things shift, run gaps change, your pass coverage responsibility change. You might go from playing man to becoming a whole player. It all just depends on what's, implemented into the playbook. And like I said, sometimes there's things that you go through in practice that the offensive coordinator know you're going through, and they switch it up on you. And they make it look a different way. And so now, again, you're going through that mental process as it all happens and trying to make sure you're doing the right thing. And so that was one thing that, was great about Rob Marinelli was there's a lot of times where we're running simplified coverages that regardless if somebody shifts or changes, we're getting to our zone drop. I'm buzzing my feet. I'm playing. I'm protecting my zone, and then when the ball's thrown, I'm running to the ball and I'm making a tackle, right? So maybe it's some of those things where, there's those zone coverages that turn to man, and you have to combo and all. Maybe we just need to take those things out, take them away. Let's get back to old school cover 3, cover 2, 1 wide. But that's tough too when you play these high caliber offenses, man.
I challenge, not you, but I challenge you, Bob, because I know you look at film.
I got you.
Go back and watch Denver's defense in any game, even the Giants game. Go back and watch this Cardinals team we're playing, and watch the pre-snap, and these guys are talking. You see the linebackers pointing. You see the safety, Buda Baker, pointing. Everybody's pointing, and when they're going across zones, you see them screaming, talking. And then go back and watch the film of the Dallas Cowboys. And everybody just lining up, looking around.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
Yeah, I was saying this earlier this week on the radio. I think if it's not every touchdown this year, it's probably like 90% of the touchdowns allowed by defense this year. I said the immediate thing you see by the guy closest to the ball is him turning with his hands up to somebody almost every single time this year, where it's just like, what were you doing? It seems like it's been confusion so consistently.
Yeah.
When those things change, for instance, when you're here in Dallas, what was the protocol for communication? Was it just, hey, everybody's got a responsibility to talk, or was there, no, this guy and this guy, it's his job to talk to this guy? How did you guys funnel communication typically?
Sometimes it depends on who the players are back there. So when you have a Buda Baker, a guy that's been there for so long, everybody knows he's the leader. And he's gonna help everybody get lined up. If you have a great nickel, so if Bland is gonna play nickel, he has to be that guy that's kind of leading that secondary and trying to communicate on a higher level, right? But a lot of times that safety, man, they got to be dialed in. Because a lot of times, they try to label us corners as we're not that smart, and you got to tell us what to do. And sometimes that's what it is. Hey, tell me what to do when this guy goes in motion. And so as the safety, you got to be locked in. And it's tough, man, because you talk about these guys going really 3 different defensive coordinators in 3 years. Yeah. And so is there a guy in the secondary that knows this defense so well that he can help him adjust, right? So, like, Flus was the DC in Indy when Kenny Moore was there. So imagine Kenny Moore coming over to Dallas and what the impact he would have on the secondary just because he knows the defense so well, right? Yeah. So that would be my question. Is there a guy on that defense that knows it and can help everybody get adjusted? I don't think
they asked him to play safety, but Reddy Stewart came in and played the nickel a little better, and he spent that year last year with Chicago. So that and a guy who would have been able to handle a lot of that, Jack Sanborn, has been out for several weeks now as a guy who had played linebacker for Flus. Let's take our final break of the show. When we come back here with Tyler Patmon, we'll take a look ahead a little bit to the Arizona Cardinals, figure out some of the fixes that might help coming out of the Denver game. That's next here on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Welcome back to the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. It's our final segment here. We're coming to you live on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, DallasCowboys.com, and all other associated social media platforms. I'm Bobby Velt from 105 through the Fan in Dallas. We've got my teammate from 105 through the Fan, Jake Rietman, here tonight. As always, we have the 3-time Super Bowl champ, 6-time Pro Bowler, Nate Newton here. And our special guest this evening, our Cowboys alumni, is Tyler Patmon. All right, guys, so we talked about it a little bit as we head into this Arizona game for Monday Night Football, which you are going to have to sit on that loss about a day longer than you probably would have wanted to. But what is the one thing, because I think everybody right now looks at this and goes, there's so many overwhelming problems with the defense. There's so many things here or there. Dak is coming off a game that wasn't great, but he's had a great season. Offensive line at times has given up some pressure in this game. What's the thing that you look at and just say, this right here should be the easiest thing coming out of the Denver game to just that can get better right away. That you don't need 2 weeks to get better. Just you need a good week of practice to make that better.
I mean, just no mental errors, no missed assignments. It's a simple answer. Everybody, let's do our job and let's make an offense actually beat us. And make them execute at a high level, right? On offense, I think it's simple, man. Just let Dak be Dak. Let him do what he does. Run the ball. Give him the opportunity to be the dangerous quarterback that he is. So, I think it's simple fixes, man, that can really help in a space to really help them to be in a space at the end of the game to go out and win the game, for it to be close to where they're competing and it's not something that gets out of hand at the end of the game.
For me, and I've been saying it week in and week out, prove to me that Javonte Williams is not a 25 to 30 carry guy. Prove that to me. We go on the road against Chicago, limited his carries. We go on the road to the next team, Carolina, limit his carries. We play get fancy down here against this Denver team on the goal line. We want to get fancy, when you should have just handed the ball to him and let him score. That was from the beginning of the game when they got the interception. Prove to me that this Williams kid is not a 20. I'm talking about carries. I ain't talking about toss him nothing. Let him carry the ball. And then you can balance this thing where it helps our offensive line and it keeps Dak healthy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, let this kid carry the bruise. But we'll find a way not to give it to him.
That's like the theme tonight's been simplifying, right? Simplify on offense, hand the ball to him. Simplify on defense, you know?
Yeah, you're right, sir. My thing for this team is you know who you are. It ain't no more 4 games in, 5. You know who you are. You know where your sore spot's at. And the only way for me to fix this is have a run balance. It protects your defense.
Yeah.
Whether we lose or win games, and I'm talking about the Cardinals are doing that. The Cardinals are saying whether we win or lose, we're going to win time of possession.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it preserves your defense.
When you look at in 2 out of the last 3 games, it feels like Denver and then Carolina a couple weeks ago, it felt like you got really out physical. It felt like a team on both sides of the ball that just said, we're going to punch you in the mouth and we don't think you're going to be able to handle it. That I think has been a concerning aspect for Shoddy in the last couple weeks. How do you, because I think for a lot of people it's like, how do you level up toughness? How do you level up physicality? Is that a mindset? Is that just an attribute that either you have or you don't? Is that a weight room thing? How do you guys look at playing a more physical brand of football?
Man, a lot of the times it's the players, and a lot of the times it's the mentality of the defense, right? I know I keep talking about defense, but I know y'all.
Right. No, you're right.
We got experts on both sides of the ball.
You are 100% right in what you're saying.
But there's certain rooms that you walk into, certain defenses, certain locker rooms where you know the mentality and you feel it. It's the culture, right? And so I just don't know if that's ever been the Cowboy culture on defense, that we're going to fly around, we're going to be physical, and we're going to knock dudes' heads off. Like, everybody knows the culture of the Seahawks, right? When they had Sherman, Cam Chancellor.
The Ravens.
Come on, everybody knew what it was.
They get hurt.
And we never been in the building, right? But you could, outside looking in, you could hear their conversations, how they talked, how they walked. It was different. And so a lot of the times, man, I think it's just the culture of the defense. It's the leaders that you have in there, like a Buda Baker, that's going to set the tone. I think I saw that video of him talking in the locker room. Like, I'm tired of this, right? And we're going to change it right now. So it can be a lot of different factors, man. And sometimes it's the players, sometimes it's the culture, and sometimes it's just the coaches leading in a certain way that this is who we are. And if you can't be a part of this, we got to go and get somebody else.
Yeah, your pops was a coach, and from a coaching perspective, what do you think is more valuable this week to, the shake the face mask, screaming at the guys, or is it, hey, challenge them a little bit and then say nothing, let the players take
Man,
home.
that's the tough back and forth.
Right, because you got to know which button to push.
You got to. One thing that I appreciated about McCarthy was that, I'm a DB guy, so I've watched a lot of their DBs throughout the time since I was with the Cowboys. McCarthy never, or Quinn, whoever it was, I felt like they never gave up on their guys, right? You saw a lot of up and down DB play, but they continued to pour and pour and pour into them, like a guy like Jordan Lewis. Yeah. I've seen his career. He had some great times. He had some low times, right? But they continued to invest in him, and you see how he played last year, what he's doing in Jacksonville.
And the year before.
Right.
Yeah.
And so little things like that, I think it might, like Nate was saying, like, we know who we are. We know the players we have. We might be able to go get one or two more pieces, but we got to find a way to really pour into these guys, lift them up, and figure out how each player ticks. So I might have to pull the face mask of one guy that I know I can do that with, but this guy, I can tell he's going through it mentally. Man, we got to get around that guy, rally around him, and pull him up so he can be the player that we know he is.
Yeah, the best coaches, they know whether to put their arm around him or they know to kick him in the butt.
Exactly.
And each player is a little bit different.
Yeah, you got to know your guys.
What is the balance between, I want to bring intensity out of you, I want to bring physicality out of you, I don't want you going over the top and getting more of these personal fouls that have plagued Dallas? Because, that's something where I think a lot of people just think, intensity, just reckless abandon. How do you get controlled physicality and controlled intensity and get that right balance with mindset? Nate, you were a butt whooper. Tell us how you did it.
You have to care about your teammates too now. I'm going to push you to the edge, and I'm going to finish you, and I'm going to put my hands in your chest, and I'm going to shove you, and I'm going to go into that whistle. And then when that whistle blows, I'm coming off of you. It's just a mindset that I cannot let down the defense. I cannot jump off sides when we on the goal line. I cannot do that because I know I'm looking at Troy, I'm looking at Mike, I'm looking at Emmett, and then they expect for execution. So it's about caring. It's about playing to the edge, but you got to care, bro. Within, you got to care.
Yeah.
Last minute here before we go on, Nate, how big would it be this week when we talk about the physicality and different things like that? How big would it be this week to you to get Cooper Beebe back in the lineup with his practice window?
I thought he was going to be back last week, but something happened. He didn't get back in. It's going to be big only if they run Williams 25 or more times. If you just give up on the run and just say now you're going to hurt Dak and you're going to hurt the defense. I believe that.
Tyler Patmon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I very appreciate it, man. For Nate Newton, for Jake Rietma, I'm Bobby Bell from 105. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll be back with you again next Wednesday on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!